Hello, everyone. Well, so we're about 20 minutes late, and I'm really sorry about that. It's like anything in life, the technology always tends to get the best of us. So what I want to do is see if we can share this now on, I don't see you live, but that's okay. You're going to be posting this. So share to my page. I'll try to share to your page. And basically what we're going to talk tonight about, again, thank you for your patience, is about clean crafted wine. And what is clean crafted wine? So I first want to introduce our wonderful guests. And I, again, apologize for any delays, but now we're on. So let's just have our glass of wine and be happy that we got that.
Right? Yes, technology.
All right. Oh my gosh, it only took 20 minutes of additional, my gosh, little work on your part. So Christina is executive director and founding member with Scout and Cellar. She works directly with Sarah Shadonix. I hope I said that right. She's the founder and CEO of Scout and Cellar. Both are moms and both are passionate about discovering the unknown good in the wine industry. Christina has 16 years in healthcare, which I thought was pretty cool. Healthcare administration in the areas of business development, marketing, and physician relations. Oh my God, getting along with physicians can be a challenge. She lives in North Texas area and has 3 children, so she is very good at drinking wine. So welcome so much, Christina, to this Facebook Live, and thank you for making this work because we were trying a new thing called Be Live. And as you know, I'm a little bit challenged in that sense. So Christina got it worked out on her end. And so she's kind of like interviewing me, but we're going to interview each other, which will be really, really cool. So thanks all of you that are joining us. And Christina, let's first talk. I think everyone wants to know, what is clean crafted wine?
Right. So clean crafted wine basically is wine that's grown naturally and bottled consciously. That's just the basic way of explaining clean crafted. That means basically from the very beginning, it's not only organic. So organic basically just means that there's no pesticides that are used, no synthetic pesticides that are used in the ground. So we are not using any type of synthetic pesticides in the ground when we're growing the grapes. And then once we bottle the grapes, we're distributing and working with, other vineyards and vintners that are not adding anything into the bottle. There's lots of things that they can add into the bottle to give it that texture, that flavor. So clean crafted is a term that Sarah Shadnix, our founder and CEO, who is a mom and a recovering attorney, as she likes to call herself.
Right.
And she founded Scout and Cellar. And so clean crafted is her copyrighted term of, and her testing that she basically did for Scout and Cellar.
Yeah. Oh, I see our previous one. Oh, here we go. So I'm going to share this. I know. Okay. This is what's always so funny. All right. I'm going to turn. This is so funny. It's like you have too many devices that make you crazy, right?
Right.
So
you shared it on your page already. I did share it to your page, so that way you.
Oh, you did. You know what? Can I just hire you and you be my person? Because obviously I can get a medical degree, but I cannot work a computer and all this technology. So again, clean crafted means it's made without chemicals. How many chemicals are in the wine that we normally drink? Let's talk about that, because I don't think many of us realize in the wine we drink, it has a lot of stuff in it. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Right. So, for so long, if you look, obviously if you go shopping for wine, as many of us do, if you notice when you actually turn a bottle around, there are no ingredient labels on the back of wine bottles.
Oh, yes.
So the FDA does not require any type of labels on wine bottles. And the FDA actually allows up to 250 chemicals to be added into one bottle of wine, and things like
chemicals?
Yes, ferrocyanide, ammonium phosphate, copper sulfate, mega purple, all sorts of GMO ingredients, just to kind of name a few, that actually can be hidden in your wine.
Wow.
I know.
So that's incredible. And so how is this wine different? I mean, what kind of chemicals, if any? So this is chemical-free wine, right?
Correct. And what's so unique that it's not that it's so much that it's different. It's the way wine used to be made. It is wine that literally is just that, just natural, just the grapes that are fermented. Our wines are vegan. Oh,
vegan. So yes. What's it to be vegan? That's a great one.
I never realized a vegan wine. So a vegan wine, and of course we're talking about Scout and Cellar wines, a clean crafted wine. So a vegan wine, what makes a wine not vegan, I guess, is probably the easiest way to start. So in the winemaking process, there are different types of fining agents and filtering. And so from a fining agent, which is very much a micro, fine kind of thing, when they're fining it, a lot of times the wines are fined with egg whites or casein, which is, a beef byproduct, isinglass, which is dried fish bladder, which is a little disgusting, right? And many other things like that. And so a vegan wine, so with Scout and Cellar wines, we do not,
You kind of went out a little bit.
All over the world that are currently making the wine, and they're not fining with anything. They're not fining with any of those products. They're using either bentonite clay, which is a natural product. There's some of them that use a special type of seaweed, which makes it vegan. And then a lot of them, it's just natural. It's beautiful and natural, and they're not fining it with anything. So finding sediment in a wine is beautiful and natural. So
fining means mostly, I think, with white wines, right? Or is it also with red wines?
Happens with reds. So, filtering is obviously when the wine is going through,
right.
Filtering through something. Fining is actually the opposite, right? It's actually when they're taking something and it's off the top. I am not a wine maker. Our CEO and founder, Sarah Shadnick, is a level 3 somm. And so she is that truly a wine expert. And so she basically understands, and she gets
right.
wine cans of it. So it was an expert.
Right. And then why did you get involved with Scout and Cellar? What was your passion about this?
I have 3 kids.
Yeah, you need wine for 3 kids. I get that.
Yes, no. Right. I do. I personally am very fortunate to know the founder and CEO, Sarah Shadnick of Scout and Cellar, and started working with her early on, and got involved. With some of the earlier tastings as she began to launch. She's been working on this project now for 4 years. She calls herself a recovering attorney, and she became a level 3 somm. I can never say the full word, a sommelier. Sommelier. Oh, look at that. You say it so beautiful. Look at you.
I speak Francais.
Right. So there are only about 250 level 4s in the world, and she's a level 3. So, which is pretty amazing to have somebody who has, her palate is just so much more advanced than I can even begin to think. And so she's been starting this project. She started working for some e-commerce companies. She started getting headaches and really kind of started to unravel and really kind of discover what all was in the wines that was causing the headaches. And it was all the extra sulfites, all the extra sugars, all the GMO products and added extra yeast they're doing, and all the 250 chemicals that they're adding. All of our wines have 0 added sugars. Most of your average mass-produced bottle of wine can contain up to 16 grams of sugar, and that's more than a glazed donut. That's
wow. One bottle of wine can have as much sugar as a glazed donut. And
yes.
And the FDA allows that in the bottles of wine?
Yes, it is that. Right. Yes, and they do. So, and even the sulfites, they can add anywhere up to 350 parts per million of sulfites into a bottle of wine.
With Scout and Cellar, I know that they're more clean crafted. They don't add additional sulfites. So what's the number of parts per milliliter that have parts per million, I'm sorry, in a white wine or a red with Scout and Cellar wines?
Right. So by FDA. So the FDA did do something right. So if anything has anything over 10 ppms of sulfites, they legally have to put that on the bottle that they have at least 10 ppms of sulfites. Again, the FDA allows up to 350 parts per million in wines. So all of our wines, we actually do get them tested. We actually are tested in California. We test at ETS and UC Davis. And Callie, I know, Callie girl, look at you. And so all of our wines are under 100 ppms. Most of our reds are hovering under 50, and most of our whites are hovering around 75 parts per million.
And there's no added sugars. So why do the winemakers add sulfites and added sugars and chemicals?
So sulfite is a natural preservative. It's also a naturally kind of occurring, antioxidant in wines already naturally. If you go to a salad bar, you're going to get a lot of sulfites just in your natural, in your salad bar. Just the natural sulfites are naturally in foods. Dried foods specifically, if you use a lot of those dried fruits, a lot of those have a lot of sulfites. So it's already naturally occurring. Now it's an amazing preservative, and a lot of winemakers will tap it in. And it's kind of a misconception sometimes too that the higher the price of the wines,
right,
a lot of times the higher their reputation is. And so they want to preserve that wine. And if they're sending it and they're mass producing it, meaning if you're pulling it off a grocery store shelf and you can find it at multiple grocery stores, the same thing, that's mass produced. So some people kind of go, oh no, I don't buy mass produced wine. I buy $50 bottles of wine. And again, and it's been an interesting dynamic. And so again, we try to work with those smaller, vineyards all over. We've obviously at California, we do have a lot of in California and Washington, Oregon. We also go all over the US, Austria, Portugal, France, Czech Republic. And so we've worked with a lot of amazing, and we're new. We are a brand new baby. We're only 8 months old.
And I just got introduced to Scout and Cellar through my spin instructor, which is kind of funny because, she was saying how, sometimes she can get headaches with wine. And I know that many of my friends can get headaches with too much wine. And I too, if it's not the right wine. So what do you think is causing the headaches, and how is Scout and Cellar allowing it so that we don't get headaches?
So again, a lot of people seem to think, well, and you're the doctor, so I will definitely let you defer to that. So sulfites, as you know, really produces more of that histamine reaction, right? It's more of that. A lot of people have that misconception that it causes headaches, and that's actually a misconception. It's the sulfites call that histamine reaction, that flush, that stuffiness, which I know.
Right. Histamine is like your body kind of reacting, an inflammatory response.
Yes, exactly. Sorry. And so a sensitivity, but most of the time, what we're starting to realize, it's a lot of the chemicals. So I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis last year, and wine kind of became something that I couldn't touch at all because I would get inflamed and would have joint problems. And so that was really difficult for me. And then I met Sarah and was like, the concept is amazing and beautiful, but I had to stay away from it. And when I tried it and when I realized it was all those other chemicals and fillers and additives and mega purples that really were what was causing all my issues and making my inflammation a lot worse. And so usually that's what will end up causing the headaches for some people. Some people do have a true sulfite allergy. A lot of people are sensitive to tannins. But what seems to be most of it, all the sugars, if it's like, when your kids Halloween and they have a headache, it's all those extra added sugars that we're adding to and that's an American thing. I think the Americans seem to have a very sweet palate in general. And we get that a lot. We have a lot of people who I only like a sweet wine. And we do have ones that are very fruity that will give you that, kind of that sense of a sweetness, right? Of that fruity, that more of a ripened berry or a cherry or something of that nature, a ripened pineapple. And those, your tongue will basically kind of come up as being more of a sweet sensation, of a little more of a fruit flavor. But most, again, we have 0 added sugars, and a lot of our wines are even vinified to full dryness, which means there are 0 sugars in there. Wow. So for those ladies watching their figures,
that way we have less sugar. And we know that whites tend to have more sugar than reds. Is that correct? Right, wines?
I don't know, but I think maybe you may be correct on that one. I know a lot of times the whites can be a little more fruity. I mean, because the Rieslings, a lot of your dessert wines are usually white wines. Your Rieslings,
like the Gewürztraminers and the late harvest, the Spätlese and things like that. Right.
Look at you.
I know it's some German, so that I think people know that my mom is German, my dad was German, so. Anyway, it's a long story, but I know a little bit about wine with regard to how to pronounce some of these names. So what is so unique about Scout and Cellar? And I'll be honest, I am one of the now consultants for Scout and Cellar. I've had a tasting. It's really fun. And I asked these questions when I was first starting. And I think everyone who's listening and watching wants to know, well, there's other companies out there that may say that they have organic and vegan and really natural wines. But how is Scout and Cellar so unique in this perspective?
So again, the testing that we do is totally proprietary to Scout and Cellar, and what Sarah has basically built and put together as her what she is choosing and what she is looking for in a wine. And she created all that testing, and basically going to 2 different labs that wine actually goes to actually get tested. And
one of you said University of California, Davis, which is known for its enology and viticulture, which is really cool.
Exactly. Very world-renowned school. Yes. Look at him. And so just because a wine says that it's organic, a lot of times, wines will actually go through the process of being certified organic. But again, just because it's organic means they're not using any type of synthetic pesticides in the ground. Once they're pulled, And once they start to bottle it, that is a whole nother ball of wax that they're going through. A lot of times you'll have a wine that is biodynamic. And a biodynamic wine just means that the farming methods that they're utilizing they usually do like a Demeter. I forgot the gentleman who did it. I think it's a German. But they're very, they go through the Demeter process. It's very much with the phases of the moon and the planting and the harvesting, almost kind of the farmer's almanac type. What's the best time to harvest? What's the best time to plant and things of that nature. And again, that usually they're not using anything chemically. They're not using anything synthetic in the ground. And then usually in the cellar, it may or may not have anything that they're adding to the bottle. And that's biodynamic. And sometimes you'll see that designation on wine bottles. Sustainable, just because a wine is sustainable, that just means that they're taking different precautions of kind of preserving the earth. They're doing natural water irrigation, things of that nature, but it has nothing to do with what they're spraying on the grapes, Roundup, and what they're bottling. Clean crafted is in its own whole little thing all by itself. And it's a term of just all of these things that they've been able to do. And it's been incredible, because there are actually importers now that have come to Sarah and to Scout and Cellar and be like, wow, this is who we work with. We work with these small, that this is their livelihood. When they put on that label, this is a year's worth of work for them and generations and their family.
So can we buy, I know the answer, but I'm asking for others. Can we buy Scout and Cellar wine with a little label on it that shows that it's been certified, correct? Can we buy this at the grocery store or Costco and things like that?
Nope. Again, a lot of times, because it is one vintage, again, mass produced, over 90% of the wines, if you go into one of your grocery stores, your wine specialty stores, over 90% of them that you grab off the shelf are mass produced. Our wines, again, are usually smaller. Some people use the word boutique, but they're smaller vintners, smaller family owned boutiques. A lot of times, this is where, people like Sarah, who knows, how many acres, produce so many certain tons of grapes. Once that vintage is gone, it's gone. And so they may only make a certain, amount of cases of that wine. And so, but that's kind of the uniqueness of people who love that adventure and discovering the unknown good of wines and trying different things, a vintage from, the horse of we're going to have in 2016 when it's ready for us to try next year. And that, I think, the uniqueness and something that I didn't realize when I was drinking wine, of really kind of understanding that a wine has a story and a sense of place, and it's different and unique. And that's pretty, it's pretty a neat concept, and you can't buy them. So a lot of times you may find a one-off, you may find a certain brand that you may find in a smaller little area, but one, you can't guarantee it's clean crafted. We're the only ones that, again, we test all of our bottles. Usually gets purchased online through consultants. We have about 2,000 consultants in 36 states.
It's grown a lot.
But we actually just opened up Hawaii and Alaska. So we are in 38 states now.
Awesome.
Awesome. But and you can find a consultant.
Yeah. So one thing I thought was interesting is you talked about how mass-produced wine, they have to have the same kind of flavor over years and years, right? So that's part of the reason that they put the preservatives, the sulfites, and the added sugars, which I didn't know that's how they make that same taste versus what you're saying with the Scout and Cellar. Obviously, they're going to have different taste for the vintage, for the grape, for the harvest, for the weather that season. So that's a really amazing concept. And that makes more sense when you see the big wine boxes, right? Versus, what we're talking about here. And so we're talking about crafted, healthy wine. I mean, it's not an oxymoron. Wine can be healthy. Right. So, which is amazing. So let me see.
We estimate about 20 to 40% less calories usually in a bottle of wine, because we're not adding all that extra sugars and stuff.
We have 20 to 40% less calories in our wine from Scout and Cellar than we do, let's say, Almaden or something like that, which God knows if that's even out there still. But the wines that are mass produced, let's say, and I didn't want to take one out of the blue, but just any wine that's mass produced, it's not going to have what we have, and it's going to have a lot more added sugars. It's going to have sulfites and chemicals, right? Which is exactly. So do you want to ask a question to those that are listening and see if we can win a prize? Because I want to give out a copy of my book to anyone who's listening. And this was a book I wrote, probably about 7 years ago now. It's called Healthy Sex Drive, Healthy You: What Your Libido Reveals About Your Life. And I want to give that out to one of the wonderful consultants, friends, patients, people that are listening. So what questions do you want to ask Christina that we can give away the book?
You know what? I would love to ask. And one, I'm still, I mean, you were on Dr. Oz. I'm sorry. I'm still in awe of you. I'm so sorry. That is just so cool. I'm sorry. I know you're probably like, that was so loud.
No, it was a surreal experience. And I still wonder how I got on the show, but
yeah, you're amazing. I love that. So, I mean, yeah, I think the biggest shocker a lot of times is what makes a wine not vegan. So if anybody can remember what makes a wine not vegan, then yeah, I think that's always a good one, I think.
On your side, if they can get the answer right, is that on your page versus
mine? That's right. Yes. Oh, yeah, that's right. You can't, normally you're driving and I'm driving.
I'm driving the ship, and unfortunately tonight it was beyond my scope, let's say. Right. And I'm so happy that you know what you're doing with technology, and I will learn this so that this won't happen again, because I hate doing that to people.
I totally forgot about that. But we have lots of people on. So hi, everybody.
Lots and lots of people who are reacting and following. And if you have a consultant that invited you to listen, please contact them to order your wine, and know that, this is a great industry, and I'm really excited to be, let's see, I think we got, the finding agent, Tressie. You see Tressie? All right. So Tressie's going to get it. So what I'm going to just need from you, Tressie, is to give, Christina, your address, and I can send you a copy of the book, and it'll be personally autographed for you. Pretty cool.
Love it.
So any closing comments you have, Christina, for those that are watching and listening and that might listen to the recording further on in the next few days or so?
I think just, I just think that it's a great opportunity to find, consultant and supporting you, Diana, and now Dr. Diana. Can I just say that?
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, I love that. It's a movement. And I think that's something, you can see it, it's gone that way in the food industry. You see it. And I think, wine is kind of that last kind of thing. You're seeing it in your drinks, and I think, again, that's just kind of that next thing. And that is Sarah Shadnick's, that's her whole dream is, discovering the unknown good, and not only in wine, but in life. And she does everything, even from some of her own brands. Now she's a geeky little somm. She loves to she's creating now some of their own exclusive wines to Scout and Cellar, and making sure that leaving the smallest footprint. She really does embrace that, and using Noma corks that are made from sugarcane, and, recycling different products and not using foil. And, her hope and our hope for everybody who's involved is that, in 5 to 10 years, that, if it is ingredient labels on a bottle, or, really kind of understanding and making sure that, that glass of wine that we're enjoying at night before our bed, when we're supposed to be, repairing our bodies at night, that, that it is clean.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point, because we want to decrease the amount of toxins that we're exposed to, and chemicals and pesticides. And I think a lot of those who listen to me on my Facebook Lives, I've been really an advocate about how to decrease the toxins that you have. And so if we can do it in all aspects, including the wine that we drink, we're only going to be having healthier, happier bodies and healthier lives. So I really want to thank you, Christina. I want to apologize about the mishap in the beginning, but you know what? It is what it is. I'd love to have you back again, maybe in a few weeks, and we can do another one. And this time it'll be much more suave and soft and clean crafted. It'll be clean crafted, really, really well done. So I really want to thank everyone that joined. Please talk to the consultant that talked to you here. If you want to see my site, I put it on my page. And Christina, I just really want to thank you for being such an amazing host and making this night so wonderful, despite all the different things that happened, and wonderful wine. So thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you so much. Cheers.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.